Hello, I'm doing the long-awaited next Minor Arcana video, which I did the wands, and now we're going to do the cups. The wands were fire, and the cups are water. So water represents emotion, creativity, connectivity, anything that, just a second, I've got to rehook up my cord. If you think of a lot of the words that you can use, much like with astrology, a lot of the words that you can use to describe both positive and negative that are watery words can be used to, in relationship with using the minor arcana cards that are representative of the element of water. Slippery, slimy, wet, flowing. You could also say, there's moist or juicy or refreshing, the way that water can be. The most important thing about water cards, in the cup cards in a reading, is that most people like to see them most of the time because they represent emotion. So although many different kinds of cards can show relationships, most often the cup cards do show that. Relationships and creativity are kind of the kind of creative flow, the creative intuitive flow. So we start out the way that the minor arcana cards generally work. It's the notion has to do with the Kabbalah, the tree of life, and it starts with the initiating force is the one, the ace, and I'll show you a few different versions of the Ace of Cups. So the Ace of Cups is the beginning of a new of something new. It would usually be emotional, or this is Aleister Crowley. Is Lady Frida Gray did the artwork. This is one of mine. This is my easiest deck, the El Teddy's Tarot. This is my other one, the black and white deck that if I use a deck, I use most often. And then this is the Rider-Waite by Pamela Coleman is the artist there. Those, the hearts there. The idea is of the beginning of something new. Emotionally, it shows up often for a child, for a relationship, when a new love comes into your life, when there's something new creatively that's happening. That's one. So it then proceeds. So then there's this outburst of some sort of new emotional experience. The next is that breaks down into two, which is inevitably shows the lovers, where there's two people sharing it. That's a partnership. So we move from one, which is just the raw experience itself, to two. Then we move to three, which can be, in a marriage, for example, the appearance of a child, or most often that is friendship, some sort of experience of friendship. And once again, we're still talking about very happy experiences. Three is would be a very convivial coming together, the formation of a first thing. So it has like the idea of friendship, of happiness, of ease, of emotional expression. Once we get into four, we get a little bit more troublesome. The fours typically are a bit more. There's the notion of stability, and trying to stabilize water, trying to make water stick to some form is not a happy experience. Water likes to flow. So often most of the meanings derive from some version of this. So there's a sense of dissatisfaction. In this image, this is the Rider-Waite, again, by Pamela Coleman Smith, and she, you can see that he's staring somewhat disconsolately at three cups. There's a magic fourth cup being offered to him, but he doesn't see it. So in my version, I took that sort of that same idea with the idea of at Passover there's the seat left for Elijah. So this is also like sort of a magic experience, a magic visitor, a magic a special supernatural spiritual element that obviously these people who are fighting are not really understanding that that person, unseen person, is there. This is the Crowley deck, and this is much more straightforward. So there's a kind of sense of dissatisfaction, that something missing. There was something really great, but now it's got a little off. The fives are in all of the suits are the most troublesome. That's where they have the sense of fighting or conflict or imbalance. So that's disappointment is typically the idea there. And once again, there is a caveat. So here's this person crying over the three spilt glasses of wine, but there are two standing behind him, and it's important to remember that two can relate back to the two of this. So there may be something gone, but there's something significant that remains. And that's also true in the Rider-Waite, where he's unhappy with the three spilt ones and there's still two. And Crowley simply calls it disappointment. The sixes are always kind of like, they're a certain kind of peak experience. With the cups, the sixes tend to show something that refers back to a sort of childhood, a blissful idea from something that recalls the kind of purity of emotion that we might have experienced as a child, or a participant in the kind of purity of experience and joy and kind of pleasure that can be experienced as children. Not that that's the only experience that one can have as a child, but it's a kind of pleasure, which is what Crowley calls it, that harkens back to that kind of innocent joy. The sevens, once again, we start to get into more unbalanced territory. And with the sevens, there's the idea of here in the Rider-Waite deck, the castle's in the air, where anything seems possible, but it's a little difficult to bring it down to earth. Crowley calls it debauch. And again, this is not necessarily a bad card, but it can be ungrounded. And, there is perhaps something, there's the uncovered element there. There's something real that can come out of it, but it remains to be seen what it is. The eights, we kind of, the emotions, the experience of emotion many of these become more difficult as they kind of gain traction in the suit as they continue. It's like it begins with one very clear, very pure experience, and then and the initial movement is positive as it begins to take form, and then we hit some troubled territory, and it becomes a little bit more weighted as it moves forward. So after the seven, we move on to the eight, in which there can be a kind of if this is illusion, this can be a kind of disillusionment, where there's also the need, he calls it indolence. Generally speaking, there's the need to leave something, to walk away from something. And if you consider it as following this, so here you're not grounded at all, and there's many, many things that are possible, and you're just having like a wonderful time sitting there imagining it all. You can't stay there forever. It's not really one thing or another has to go. And faced with reality, there can be the need to, first of all, you can get just sort of tired of this kind of unreal circumstance. And you have to stop that. You have to walk away from a circumstance that's not going anywhere. That's clear here. And that can also kind of explain the notion of indolence. If you think of the seven, the kind of luxuriating in the dream world of the seven taken to the next level, it becomes something that becomes kind of dangerously inactive, in which there is a need to take action and walk away. Once again, sometimes this comes up in readings, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to leave the relationship, although often when it comes up, there's already been a kind of leaving, and it's necessary to take another step. But because it's not a major card, it's a minor card, there's something that there's a way that you have to walk away. There's something you need to step away from, and something else that you need to find. And then, fortunately, if you do take that step to walk away, Crowley calls it happiness. Then we have a card that's considered a wish-fulfilling card, where you move from a circumstance that was unsatisfying, where you had, like, this kind of buildup of emotional experience that wasn't really amounting to anything, to the potential to actually truly find what you desire. Again, this is often considered a wish-fulfilling card when it comes up. It means you can get what you want. And frequently what everybody wants, the white picket fence, the happy family, that is not truly what everybody wants, but that is considered to be the fullest expression, metaphorically or not, of the emotional experience of the cups, where they show the rainbow and the family and because it's satiety, being full, but in any event, everything you could want, the fullness of it. Now, as I have said before, when the cards are reversed, their energy is blocked somehow. It can either be not having trouble moving on to the next, it can be having trouble expressing what it is, or it can be in some way stuck. So, if this card is stuck, for example, you may be needing a circumstance that might have once been this. If it's reversed, maybe that needs to be questioned and shifted around a bit. Maybe it's gotten maybe it's not quite what you think it is, or maybe it is. Maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time for some kind of new energy. The ace upside down usually shows difficulty bringing something new into being. And sometimes it shows that it's a tough birth, that it's not yet happening, but it promises that it will. Or that it's difficult, something appeared like it was going to happen, but it isn't. Obviously, the 8 upside down usually means that you're having trouble walking away from something that you perhaps should walk away from. And the 7 upside down, that's a little bit more positive. That tends to show, starting to ground, starting to see what isn't, starting to bring those castles in the air down to the earth, and starting to pick one, perhaps, make a choice. Let's see, which other ones haven't I? The 6 upside down is once again likely to be where you kind of over-romanticize, or you again, a circumstance that might be a little too immature for you, or where it's, kind of living in the past, in a memory that doesn't really, that doesn't have the same resonance that it doesn't have the same resonance that it should, or that it did once to your life. And usually the 2 upside down shows trouble in a relationship, trouble with a friend or with a partner. And similarly, this shows difficulty getting along in a group of 3, and almost always that is really a group of 3, whether it's a family or whether it's with friends or that sort of thing. That brings to mind the notion that, play dates with 3 kids don't usually work so well. 2 kids, fine. 4 kids, even that can work, but 3, not so much. The 5 upside down can show getting over a disappointment. It can show not being able to get over a disappointment too, but more often, since that puts the 2 cards upside down and these cards right side up, in a certain sense it shows actually seeing that silver lining that was in that cloud. all along. And the 4 upside down is once again a positive card. There it tends to show that perhaps you are seeing the spiritual offering that is being presented to you, that is the mystical and not easily seen, but nonetheless present availability of something remarkable. All right, that is a basic rundown of the suit of cups, and without going into the court cards, which I'll do later, and next I will move on to the swords, which are air, which represent air, and air being also represent the intellect. So that being the source of all trouble, swords tend to be the swords. The air represents the intellect, which is the mind, which is of course which is everything. Nothing is either good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. So the swords tend to represent the difficulties we experience in life. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.